So moving on to the second words and expressions list in lesson 3, we start off with return. And in this case, it's pronounced huan, huan, and it means return in a very specific sense. So we've learned the expression return in the sense of returning to some place. So return home, 回家, 回家. This is different. This means to return, for example, something that you've borrowed. And so also the other interesting thing is if you look at that character, we've seen that character before. And previously we've learned it as 还, meaning still or yet, and also it means also. So how do you know the difference? Generally speaking, huan will be followed by some kind of noun. So for example, to return a book, 还书, whereas 还 will be followed by some kind of verb or possibly even an adjective. So that's the way that you can tell the difference, and then also from the context of the sentence that they appear in. So make sure you pay careful attention to the context. Next one is a handy verb to know, 写, 写. And for example, you could say to write Chinese characters, 写汉字. Moving along, we've now got a two-character verb, and as I think I've mentioned in previous videos, this is made up of the first character being the actual verb, 下, and the second character being the object of that verb or a noun. A better way to look at it is that it's a noun, 课, which means class. So we've learned this before. This is not new. 下课, to finish class or to get out of class. And as I mentioned before, in some circumstances, we may have to actually split those two characters and put something in between. And we'll be coming to that within a few lessons. Here is another example of that kind of verb plus noun type verb. 过期, meaning to be overdue. And if you look at it, 过 means to exceed, surpass, and 期 means a period of time. So it makes perfect sense. You have surpassed whatever the period of time is for example, borrowing something. The next one, to impose a fine, is another example of this verb plus noun combination. 罚款, 罚款. 罚 is the impose part, to impose a penalty of some sort. 款, as it says there, is a sum of money. So the two combined together mean to impose a fine. Sometimes in China, when you're at a banquet, every place in China has its own what is called 酒文化. And I'll just write that down for you. And what that means is drinking or toasting is a very important part of Chinese culture, Chinese food culture, particularly business culture. And each location has its own what's known as their alcohol culture. And various different places have various different rules. We have something like that in Australia where we have sort of drinking games that we play, and one of the things that can happen is if you knowingly or unknowingly break one of the rules, I have to learn how to spell alcohol culture, then you will be punished or penalized. And what they say is 罚你一杯, 罚你一杯. The bay we learned in last lesson, meaning a cup or a glass, and the whole expression is 罚你一杯酒. So they actually penalize you to have to drink a full glass of alcohol as your penalty. Anyhow, so that's 罚, to penalize or punish. The next expression, should or ought to. So this is one of those in itself, I guess it's a verb, it's an auxiliary verb. It will always go before the main verb in a sentence, and it's pronounced 应该, 应该. So for example, you should go to Beijing to study Chinese. 你应该去北京学习汉语. Although I would say don't go to Beijing, go somewhere else, so that you get the opportunity to experience, pronunciation and accents from other parts of China. But anyhow, so 应该 would go before the main verb to emphasize that something should or ought to be done. Moving along, we have a straight noun for library, 图书馆. Here's another example of 馆, meaning a place that's used for a special purpose. In this case, it's a place for storing 图, so drawings, diagrams, maps, and 书, books. Okay, moving on to the next one, business, 生意. 生意. Now that 生 we've seen before in a number of different words, and it appears in a lot of different words, and in different circumstances it has different meanings. But anyhow, here it relates to doing business. So because 生意 is a noun, we need to have some kind of verb. And so the one verb that you can use here is 做生意. So you can say 做 and then 生意. Okay, so you might say, for example, in the oral exam, you might be asked, 你爸爸做什么工作? And you could reply, 我爸爸做生意. My father does business. The next one is both a noun and a verb, as it says in the brackets. Rules or regulations as a noun, or as a verb, to regulate or to stipulate. And the word in Chinese is 规定. 规定. So if it's a noun, meaning rules or regulations, then there'll be some kind of verb before it. And yeah, I mean, that will vary depending on the circumstances. If it is a noun, if it is a verb to regulate or to stipulate, then that will generally speaking be followed by some kind of noun expression which tells you about what has been regulated or what has been stipulated. And we'll see that in the context of the lesson anyhow. The next expression means not bad, pretty good, and the expression is 不错. 不错. On the surface of it, it looks like it means not wrong, because we've learned the character 错 before to mean wrong, but in fact it is an adjective which means something is not bad. So, you might say to your friend, 你的中文不错. Your Chinese is not bad. It's pretty good. Anyhow, I'm sure you can think of lots of examples where you can use it, and we'll see it in the text, the dialogues later on. The next word, fast or quickly. So there, it's an adjective. Something happens fast or happens quickly, but it can also be used as a verb. An adverb, where, for example, you want to say to somebody, hurry up, do something faster. And it can also mean, as it says there, something is about to happen. So, for example, where you use 快 as an adjective, you might say, for example, 他说话很快. Or you might, for example, in the oral exam, say, when you're asked a question and you don't quite catch it, you might say, 对不起，你说话太快了. So, I'm sorry, you're speaking too fast. And then you should add after that, 请你再说一遍. 请你再说一遍. I might just add that in there so that you can see that. 请你再说一遍. Can you please say it again? 请你再说一遍. Or you could say, 请你说慢一点. Could you please speak a bit slower? Where it's used as an adverb meaning to hurry up. So you say, it's very common, you hear that when you're going somewhere and you're trying to get somebody to hurry up, you say, 快点,快点,快点. So let me just put this, 快点,快点,快点. And you might follow that by some kind of verb, you know, 你快点来,你快点来,你快点走. Hurry up and go. 快点走. The other way it's used also is when you want to say you're about to do something. So, for example, I don't know, we might be talking about, you know, we're getting towards the end of class and somebody comes and, I don't know, asks a question and you want to say to them, look, we really haven't got time to answer it right now because we are going to finish, we're about to finish class. So that would be 我们快要下课了. 我们快要下课了. So it's 快要 followed by the verb, followed by the le. And in an earlier lesson, we learned the combination of 要 something le, meaning soon. So this is an extension of that. 我们快要下课了. We're going to leave soon, or we're going to go home soon. 我们快要回家了. So that's how it's used in that sense. This next one, severe or fierce, is an adjective, and it's pronounced 厉害. 厉害. So you can talk about, you know, a person being 很厉害 in the negative sense, which is to say that this person is very fierce in their approach, their attitude towards other people. But also, it can have a positive connotation when you say, 哎呀,这个人很厉害. It could mean that they do something extremely well. Extremely well. So it really depends on the context of how it's used as to whether it means severe or fierce, or whether it means that somebody does something really well. So you need to look at the context for that. The next one is the expression 恐怕. 恐怕. And what it, as it says there, it has two, I guess, equivalents in English. I'm afraid that, and also maybe or probably. So, for example, I might say, oh, I'm afraid it's going to rain. 恐怕快要下雨了. 我们不能去了. So I'm afraid that it's going to start raining soon, so we can't go anymore. Just as an example off the top of my head. For example, where it means maybe or probably, we had the example in our last lesson of a student who didn't turn up to class, and then one of the other classmates said, oh, they're sick. So you could use 恐怕 in that situation. So the teacher says, you know, let's take a name of a student, you know, Wang Ying is the name of the student. And the teacher says, oh, Wang Ying 怎么还没来? Wang Ying 怎么还没来? How come Wang Ying hasn't come to class yet? And somebody, one of the other classmates might say, 他恐怕不来了. 他生病了. So she maybe or probably won't come because she or he is sick. Okay, moving on to the next one, like this, this way. 这么. 这么. So this can be used in a whole lot of different ways, and there are examples in the dialogues, but you know, one that comes to mind, I guess, is you could say, for example, you're talking to a Chinese person in Chinese, and they think, wow, your Chinese is so good, you really should go to China and work, for example. So they might say to you, 哎呀，你的中文这么好，你应该去中国工作。你的中文 I'll put it down here. 你的中文这么好，你应该去中国工作。You could also use 那么 in a similar sort of scenario. You could say 你的中文那么好，你应该做老师。你应该做中文老师。So your Chinese is that good, or so good, that you should be a Chinese teacher. Just to give another example of 这么, in the textbook in lesson 3, dialogue 2, towards the end, or in fact the last interaction, Wang Ying says in regards to the fact that if you return a book to the library late by 1 day, that you'll be fined 1 kuai. Wang Ying says, 哇，这么厉害，这么厉害. And what Wang Ying is saying there is that a fine of 1 kuai per day is very severe. So that's an example of both using 这么, meaning so severe, or this severe, or severe in this way, and also then another example of 厉害. In that same line, Wang Ying, so this is again lesson 3, dialogue 2, the last interaction. Wang Ying, in reference to originally wanting to borrow the book from his classmate, when he finds out that the book is going to be overdue soon, and that you would be fined, 1 kuai or $1 per day that it's overdue, then says, 那算了，算了。你快点去还吧. So in that case, he's saying, well, just forget it. I don't want to borrow it anymore. I don't want to borrow it off you anymore. Hurry up and return the book to the library so we can avoid the fine. So you'll often find Chinese people, when they are faced with a situation where it's just going to be too much trouble, it's going to be impossible to resolve the situation, they'll often say, 算了，算了，算了. Sometimes you'll hear that when, for example, there's an argument and it looks like it's going nowhere and no one's going to win the argument. They'll often say it like that 3 times. 算了，算了，算了.